to end of season 18, beginning of season 19, random Zoom podcast / stream / thing. How's
Think
it
about
going?
just eating. What are you eating?
Important. Asking the important questions.
It's 7 p.m. You gotta have dinner.
Oh,
Who needs dinner when you've got Penny Dreadful? All right. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk about season 18 first.
did you have fun in season 18? You beat a lot of good decks.
I
Did everyone
think,
have fun? That's the first question.
Season 18 was a classic, if you ask me.
Yeah, I had a reasonable amount of fun. I played the decks that I like playing. Had some, there are a couple really fun cards that just made Demonic Rising better. That one removal spell in black that can hit enchantments now felt really good.
Feed the Swarm, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good card. That's in season 19 as well. It's already on some of my lists.
I think we proved that if you put Brainstorm and Ponder in the same format, you're gonna get a bunch of broken decks. So I think that's my take on.
Yeah, I think so too. The one thing I won't miss about season 18 is searching Gatling for free or cheap shuffle effects when there are none. Must have done that 100 times in the last 3 months. Okay, let's take a look at. Whoops, not that. Wow, everything on my machine is running incredibly slowly because I'm recording, I guess. That's sad.
Yeah.
I should think a modern MacBook Pro would cope with that possibility. Okay, let's look at popularity first of all. So, I guess the first real archetype here is Affinity, which won 20 tournaments and was played a shitload and had a 58.4% win rate, and I think has a reasonable claim to be like tier 1 or I don't know about the best deck, but it was very good.
Should we give our takes in order so we don't all talk over each other?
Okay.
You go first. All right, next time.
All right, I think Affinity was good. I thought it would be better than it actually ended up being. I think that having only Vault of Whispers and then people just like putting Vault of Whispers in there mostly, it doesn't matter that much, but having access only to Vault of Whispers made it a little bit questionable, and then also the fact that Arcbound Ravager got hits, but then didn't. I think if it had like Arcbound Ravager, obviously it would have been nuts.
Yeah.
But I think it was still pretty good though. I don't think it was the best deck, but it attacks it's you can beat it if you want to type of thing.
We did have every hate card for it that's ever been printed, from Vandal Blast to Shenanigans to
Stony Silence and Null Rod or something, but pretty much every artifact, destruction spell you could ever want exists.
Yeah, Ancient Grudge was in, and although Ancient Grudge is less good in a format where being multicolored is not free and red-green is terrible.
True.
But yeah, there was a lot of ways to fight it if it was bothering you. Although I think a lot of people played games where they just thought, well, if they draw Ginger Brute, I'm dead. Over and over again. Ginger Brew, put the plating on it, make it unblockable, 9 or whatever. It was interesting. I spent some time out in the beginning of the season, and I came to the conclusion that it wanted to be colorless, so that you could play Vault of Whispers and Darksteel Citadel, so that you could play Frogmite for free on turn 1 or turn 2, so that you could, Goldfish turn 4 every time, and with this tiny sliver of a chance of turn 3. And that's why I also really like Springleaf Drum, and obviously Honest Opticas in any Affinity deck and blah blah blah. But the way people played it, it seemed like the favor was towards being blue or blue-red for Master of Ethereum and Ensoul Artifact, and I never really tried out Ensoul Artifact that much. So I don't know if
I really enjoyed playing against the Ensoul Artifact build. It was honestly, for my matchups, the more competitive one of the two. Because being able to go, turn 2, I have a 5/5 that may or may not have indestructible. You just can't deal with that.
Yeah, and Soul was good. I don't know how good exactly, but I don't know. There was other ways to build it as well. If you were white, you could play the 2/2 for 1 and maybe Tempered Steel and Dispatch even in the main or side. A lot of
I tried
options.
the mono white a few times, and I thought it was it felt pretty reasonable, but they all felt pretty powerful. Like I couldn't tell you which way was actually the best one.
I mean,
all I know is
guess
that
Emerald had the most success.
putting
Right?
like 3 colors in, and I'm pretty sure that's wrong. But
This is the player
I was actually
M-Dog
going to
had
bring
the
this
most
up. I think
success.
the M-Dog list is, I mean, M-Dog, nobody really copied M-Dog's list that much, and I think M-Dog had a lot of success. And I think the M-Dog list is really good. Like, basically mono blue, splashing black for sideboard cards. I think that's really...
Yeah, he had Metallic Rebuke in the main, and this like one of Antiquities War for like, oh shit, the game's gone long, but I've killed you anyway with my lands.
Right.
And 4 Mage Champion in the main, which, I don't know, that's not the Goldfish play, but it is the beat Rakdos play. And it really does have protection from all colours because, you've got your lands and everything turning it on. You could never get to the point where it was vulnerable to removal in any game that I played. Maybe with like Fracture and Gust or something, but...
Right. So the other thing I was going to say is that Springleaf Drum is a really powerful card.
Springleaf Drum, in my experience, was the best card in the deck. It was the card you most wanted in your opener.
Yeah.
Anyway, Affinity was good.
Yeah, blue had the most busted starts. Like Kate said, like if you throw in like Dark Steel, like Soul Artifact in turn 2, some decks just couldn't even beat it, especially like in mono red.
Dark Steel.
Drum is also a really dumb card because it just puts you on 3 mana in turn 2
and a 0 drop.
Overall, it's like that. But honestly, that deck is really held up by Cranial Plating.
Yeah,
I think if Cranial Plating doesn't exist, that deck is not as
course.
good. But the combination of things like Edge Champion, Cranial Plating.
The fact that your 0/2 sometimes attacks for 11 is definitely a key part of why it's good. So the next like real archetype on here, not like parent archetype, is Red Deck Wins. Perennial PD favorite, 111 tournaments, played a lot, 58.4% win rate.
Storm, right? Oh, I guess Storm is a sub.
I'll do Dimir Tendrils, I think, because there's a bunch of sort of Storm things that got tried that are maybe not so hot, and Storm's win rate at the top level there's 50.5, but for Dimir Tendrils it's 55.4. So Red Deck Wins, there's not a lot to say about it. When Chain Lightning and 2/2s for 1 are legal, like how bad can it be? Not bad. I do think people playing the World God of Dragon decks were saying it was a buy. I don't know if that was necessarily true. I certainly lost to it, but
I think that it feels like you should be able to play Spikefield Hazard to interrupt their combo, but no one actually did. So.
I think you get to a point where like
actually, it had a 27.3% win rate against World God of Dragon. I guess it was very bad.
Well, but this is the thing.
Pretty close to
It's really just about like I think we all know that like red deck is basically like a gatekeeper of like a good deck or a bad deck of Manager. If you can't beat a red deck, then it's hard to like justify playing it sometimes. And there's also another thing about Paint Triple is that it's kind of a copycat format, which is not a bad thing. But a lot of people will just take the successful list, and it won 11 tournaments, so it's you can't say it's not successful. But some people will just take like that baseline, just want to get in, they want to play, and they'll just take that, and they won't innovate or think about their bad matchups. But I always started my red decks with like a 3 to 4 Spikefield Hazards. I'm really sad it didn't like catch on.
Yeah, I agree. I think Spikefield Hazard is really good in red decks because.
And for as long as we have Price of Progress, you will sometimes be able to win games by just playing some mountains and some Price of Progresses against certain decks as well.
Yeah, I mean, like any like Cackler, Stormblood, Bolt, or Chain Lightning Draw will beat a lot of decks. It actually just will beat a lot of different decks. So you're not going wrong. It's just like
and you beat the
better
stumbles
matchups,
even from your bad
bit.
matchups.
You could definitely just shore up some matchups by just having some internal thought.
Right.
So the next most played deck is Dimir Tendrils, Tendrils of Agony Storm, with Ponder and Brainstorm and Gitaxian Probe and Treasure Cruise, which sounds pretty busted to me, and Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual. That sounds pretty busted. We even had Sunken Ruins to make the mana not as bad as it has been in other seasons. Because like sometimes you make a lot of black mana and you can't do anything with it. Oh, and Frantic Search. I almost feel like 5 tournament wins, 55.4% win rate is underperforming for that pile of cards.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is probably the best Storm deck we've ever had. It's very consistent turn 4, sometimes turn 3. And I also see a lot of people like 0-5ing leagues with it, which
Right, sometimes you want to try Storm. You've never played Storm before. The
I'd
only
rather have
format
Mind's
you've played
Desire
is
Storm, because
Draft.
that was just like training wheels. It's literally training wheels. Like, this deck you could mess up, but like, Mind's Desire, like, you could just chain Mind's Desire to Mind's Desire. You actually can't lose. There's like 0 chance you lose. So, I think it is really good, because like we said earlier, Brainstorm Ponder is just a broken sort of combo of just finding whatever you need. But I've literally like drawn like, I've stormed to like 20 before and not comboed. So that's like, there is a breaking point in mana where you just kind of run out of blue mana and you have a ton of black mana, which is why people play things like Cruel Bargain or like Ransack the Lab. So I think that was like the stopgap sometimes and like building.
So I guess a big part of why it doesn't have a higher win rate and didn't like completely dominate is these him decks. Here's Mardu mid-range beating it 24-10. Here's On a Bounds Creation.
Those are all just him decks. Like, I don't know how Storm beats him decks. Like, you can
mid-range.
Yeah, you can like pieces and like treasure grooves them out, but it's so hard.
There's some other combo decks here. It's down against Heroic, which is kind of interesting. I guess they just brought in some Deafening Silence. So it's down against.
It's more even. That looks more even, honestly. 44 is like, it's actually more even.
Yeah, it's a pretty small sample. I mean.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not crushing Heroic. My intuition would have been. But I guess they've got access to either Orange Chant or Deafening Silence or whatever they want post-board, which can, cost the Storm player 1 or more turns, which is all they need. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that could have been on like the sideboards too. I mean, Heroic comes out really fast. You can make like a 4/5 like hoplite, and that turns into like a 10, 12, or 11 or whatever.
Down to like
it's huge.
The people who actually play it, like the actual decks, because I feel like this deck has a lot of like just 05s.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah. And this is an interesting stat here. In past seasons, when Storm has been not quite so good, I've expected this number to be sub 50% against aggro. So it was definitely a good one, whether it was, given justice or not by the random league runs of people trying Storm for the first time or whatever it might be. Our next most popular deck was Crazy Balor's favourite deck of all time, because it requires no skill. Green Post.
It's pretty accurate, yeah. I actually hate playing big mana decks. Like, I never play big mana decks.
Yeah, no, me either.
Like I don't know. Like, I literally, like, I saw that this deck was, like, sub 50%, and I was like, and so I didn't play it for, like, half the season. And then I, like, picked it up halfway through the season, and I crushed, like, 2 tournaments in a row with it. And I was like, oh, well, maybe this is just great. And I don't know. I mean, I think that a lot of people were like, the only other tournament win with it before that was like someone playing like Llanowar Elves and stuff like that. It was basically just mono green ramp with like, incidentally had cloud posts in it. So I think that just really like 4 Stirrings, 4 Sylvan Scrying, 4 Expedition Map, just all in on just assembling.
Yeah, I mean, with those 3 cards are the cards that make this good rather than mediocre, because it means you're essentially always
have it, right?
getting
it's
multiple mana from your cloud posts.
And then finding the payoffs is pretty hard. Luckily, Tooth and Nail was legal, and I think that Tooth and Nail was really good in the deck, and a lot of people just didn't really leverage Tooth and Nail to the point where if you resolve Tooth and Nail, you just win on the spot, which is what I was really trying to push for. But when I built the deck, but I
tried a version with just a random smattering of 6, 7, 8, and 9 drops, and
right.
Sometimes you would be top decking, sort of slightly behind, but any great top deck's going to get back in it, and you draw like Duplicant or something, and it wouldn't quite be enough. I
think the one tension with Tooth and Nail is that it's not a hit off Stirrings, and you really want Stirrings to be like threat and
or post, depending on which stage of the game.
So I think that's the one big tension. And I think at the early season there was one deck that was successful that was like Mirror Incubator, which is like kind of cute, but I think that's a little bit like, I don't know, it's a little bit too cute. I think I mean it's fine, but like I feel like it just lets you get blown out a little bit.
It's a 2-10 thing. I mean,
my last league deck was Yosei and Tooth and Nail. I thought it was actually really good. I wish I had played it more.
Yeah, I saw that list in the tournament that you were playing it, and I actually liked it. I thought it was kind of cool.
It's really good, actually. I thought it was really good. I wish I played it more, but I ended up just playing other cards. And
I'm not sure what is leaving from this deck. Possibly nothing.
Cloud Post is coming back.
Yeah, I saw the Cloud Post and
Post none of the end, so you need a different find a new payoff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I thought you did some cute things. Terrastodon, blow up 3 of your lands, but also get Caldera Hellion at the same time.
It's actually really good. I mean,
just
really
once
close
you
to
take all the
four.
packages,
Now I have a
think people
9/9
realize
and
what
you
they
have
could do
3
with
less
Tooth and Nail.
lands.
And that was
Yeah.
the difference when like you were saying how like you didn't see a lot of good Tooth and Nail lists until you made one, until you made it. And then people started realizing, wait, I could just do all these different things with
looking
Tooth
at
and Nail.
creature decks as well. Also
You don't have to
really
just
good.
get like 2 7/7s or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
You can get things that affect the board.
right.
Next most popular deck was Dredge. This one was a bit of a nemesis of mine. This deck seemed very good to me.
I thought it was very good also. I think it was underplayed.
It was maybe a little slow to get started in that you were often relying on 2 mana spells to get you started unless you got lucky with like Shriekhorn.
Yeah.
And so that's a bit awkward. And it also needed to resolve spells a bit more than your average Dredge deck. Like it needed to resolve the Smiting Helix so it would get back the ghouls, so it could keep going. So it was not like vintage Dredge, but obviously anything approaching vintage Dredge would be completely busted in Penny Dreadful. So, but I struggled against it. I tended to put like 6 or 7 pieces of Graveyard Hate in my sideboards and expect to lose to it if I didn't. It was very good.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Good.
I was gonna say PD is like a lot about. It's kind of like the haven for banned cards. So things like Grave Troll. I mean, it's not really. I think it's like banned and modern anymore, but like it's PD's just good at exploiting these like sort of strategies that were probably discarded or probably banned out in other formats. So I mean, you put like Grave Trolls, Thinkweed them.
Yeah, I mean we had all
in
the
a deck with a
best
lot of like
dredges.
graveyard enablers or just like payoffs, and you're gonna make a deck. So especially with Creeping Chill. Creeping Chill is new this season, I believe. Right?
Yeah, and
so
Creeping Chill is just nuts because you can be sitting there with a counter spell, you know, having it all locked up or whatever, but one dredger goes in the yard and they've got they've got 6 more points of uncounterable burn coming at you, and it's also life gain, so you racing it as an aggro deck is a nightmare. Yeah, Creeping Chill's a pretty
Yeah, I think Dredge
card.
is like very well positioned against what the normal PD metagame is. It is soft against like other degenerate decks because it is a little bit like you care about racing your opponent because you win most races and you have a lot of inevitability, but you don't like.
Right,
It's
you
not
don't
like
kill
you're
them on turn
like
3.
sometimes like against Storm, like you don't really do much, right? Like on the play, sometimes you put like you drain them for a bunch and put enough power into play that you can kill them on turn 4, but like on the draw against Storm, you're kind of just out of luck most of the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Hard, surprisingly hard to hate out, but yeah, not a turn 3 kill by any means. Apparently, the 6th most played deck this season was Azorius Control. I don't remember ever playing against Azorius Control. I don't think it didn't do particularly well, although it did win 2 tournaments.
what if you just counted like that? I mean, I guess leagues count, but what if you just counted tournaments only?
Well,
Can't you do that
I'll
this
take a skip to tournaments only when we went through the like actual most played. Yeah, I mean, I guess I saw this deck: Day of Judgment, Neutralize, Mana Leak, bunch of lands, Kefnet probably is the win condition.
It's just another crazy bailout deck, honestly. Won super early and then no one played it. So, but I mean, it's all fine. Like Day of Judgment, Mana Leak. You have classic cards. Dream Trawler is a really good finisher. Decree of Justice.
Dream Trawler is really good. Some decks literally
you have
can't
all-
beat it.
Like there's definitely just like a shell. There's always a shell of like blue-white control. And it's just about what kind of sweepers you have and what kind of finishers you have.
Yeah.
And Dream Trawler is a really good finisher.
Yeah.
It can just kill you out of nowhere, especially with Brainstorm.
Dream Trawler is good enough that the reanimated
Dream
decks are
Trawler
playing it in the sideboard.
stabilizes really well too, which is unusual, right? Like sometimes you just like you play your sweeper against red deck wins, and then they top deck some burn spells and kill you. But if you jam a Dream Trawler and you untap with it, you basically
Right.
can no longer
Right.
against the red deck. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a strength. I played this deck like the very beginning of the season, like the first like week. I played Blue White Control, which is not a great time to play Blue White Control, and then I revisited it at some point. And I felt that if you spent like all season, tuning Blue White Control to beat whatever the best deck was, you could get there. But I didn't want to devote that time to doing that, so I basically just dropped it. I felt like the power level, it was like almost good enough, but not quite to the point where I just wanted to.
It's always
spend.
awkward to be durdling around with Birth of Meletus and Day of Judgment when your opponent is frantic searching, and like I don't think we had pretty good counterspell suite. I guess you could be more draw go or something, but anyway.
Yeah.
The next most played deck was Izzet Tempo, which was frankly bananas. With Ponder, Brainstorm, Gitaxian Probe, Delver, Sprite Dragon, Treasure Cruise, Chain Lightning, Burst Lightning if you want it. It's pretty one-dimensional, and I don't know what threats 9 to 12 were. I had the most success with Kiln Fiend, but you took a lot of the game actions with this deck. If they played Desecration Demon on turn 4, you could untap and make a Sprite Dragon bigger than Desecration Demon in short order, frankly. It wasn't really that hard. I think it did suffer against the all removal red-black, where you have 12 threats in the whole deck and they all die to Doomblade. I tried Improbable Alliance, but then you let them get their big creatures online, so I don't know if that was really an answer. But it was a very powerful deck, and I think we've had Sprite Dragon before, but this was the first time Sprite Dragon was actually good, I think, because Gitaxian Probe and Ponder and Brainstorm just made it get big so much faster than if you're noodling around with mana leaks or whatever, which I think was just not the right way to approach it. How many is that? So that's Affinity.
Honestly, about Blue Red, I don't like the deck. I think it's actually just the worst Delver deck. It's good. Red removal spells are good, but the problem is mana is really bad. So
yeah, it did.
Going turn 1 Swiftwater Cliffs in your tempo deck is so not fun. And I tried it too. I tried my own bad versions, but I don't know. I can't really if I'm playing some sort of Izzet Tempo deck. And I think there was 2 different camps. More of there was a Kiln Fiend camp where it was more prowessy, so it didn't really play counter spells. So it just played a bunch of draw spells, burn spells, and then there's play your Sprite Dragon, then hold up counter, hope it lives, then hold up counter match for the rest of the game, sort of esque builds. So
I don't really
there's a
like
weird
that. I think it's better off in mono blue doing that, probably. If your plan is just to mana leak things.
I just don't like I really want my lands untapped. I know it's a hard ask from Penny Dreadful, but when I think about those kind of tap lands, I think about payoff, and I'm not sure. I think Kiln Fiend's a much better payoff.
Sprite Dragon makes Fairy Vandal look like an idiot, doesn't it? But,
right. I think the Kiln Fiend versions I liked way more because they seem more centralized and they had more a vision.
Yeah, and Crash 2 is a very good card because it's a spell, it costs 1 mana, it draws a card, and it's red, so you can use your mountains for it, not tax those.
It definitely just asserted itself in a way. It's you better kill this, otherwise I'm probably going to kill you. So.
Then I'm not sure if Mono Black Midrange really counts, or Reanimator, or Ponza.
Talk about Heroic. Heroic's really good.
Yeah, so Mono White Heroic won 12 tournaments. And was essentially, people did play other versions of Heroic for whatever reason, but this was the good version, I think. It made the top 8 of the PD 500 and various other things. Kind of the same deck as always. We've lost.
No, not at all.
We've lost the 04.
No, it's way better. Third Hour was sick. Third Hour was nuts.
Yeah, so we start off with a really good Heroic deck in Season 4, which had 2 1-drops, and that's why it was good. 2 Heroic 1-drops. Then we lost the 04 Lagonaban Trailblazer to Pauper. They started playing Heroic, and the deck became bad. And in this season, it was good again, not because we got a 1-drop, unfortunately, but because we had
a 1-drop. We got 3 armor.
So now, any random guy on the field, rather like the cranial plating situation with Affinity, your rubbish guy of Cartouche or Solidarity even can become a 7/7 or whatever, as long as you have some grist spoons and things hanging around. Emergent Scathe came back as well. That's a really good card in the deck.
Yeah, this is more like a hybrid strat between Bogles and Heroic, right? You don't have literal hexproof creatures, but you have protection spells and you have the Alciad to protect your stuff. So you're kind of playing you're kind of playing
a bit of protection now, Sid. Bit of unblockable for your other guys with Deathblade Elite. Hoplite and Flank Leader are the actual good cards. I don't suppose you win that many games where you don't draw one of these 2 cards. If you make Alcid and then put 2 ethereal armors on it or something,
Well,
I guess.
I mean, like whenever they go turn 1, like Alciad, you kind of do a fist pump,
Yeah.
but they don't have the hoplite, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they have both, obviously, and that's probably correct even to lead on the Alciad. But I mean, generally, like if they have like a draw where they have the Alciad and the Deathblade,
Yeah.
but they don't have
Yeah.
any of their heroic, which happens, and they sometimes have to keep those, and you just have, but that does hold the deck back a little bit, I think. The fact that it only had the 4 really good ones. I mean, all the 1-drops are pretty good, but it only had it really wanted the hoplite up
Yeah.
in every draw.
I mean, basically, ethereal armor is compensating. Some people play as many as 4 of the Skyguard, but it's a much less exciting card, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't mind the lead. I think elites are really good. Like,
I mean, I think this deck, if this deck was the best deck, then you could beat it, right? Like, I think it benefits a lot from attacking from a slightly different angle than the other aggro decks. Like, instead of, going wide or having reach, it just builds like a Voltron thing that is sometimes very hard to deal with. So it's just like a slightly different angle, and it benefits a lot from that. And if everyone was like prepared for heroic, I'm fairly sure it would not be as good, but it's just the reality of PD is that you have so many different angles and archetypes, and people just play what they want, so that a deck like heroic can kind of thrive in that sort of metagame because it just really crushes aggro mirrors and sometimes even interactive decks that are prepared for a different thing.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's very proactive and like reactive sometimes, and this heroic can just run over some people.
Yeah.
Especially in those aggro mirrors with like if you go like Stormwind Lead and then you put like a Ethereal Armor and another random enchantment, that's like probably like a 4/4 coming at someone, just making someone chump, like maybe they played like a Llanowar Elf or something stupid, and they just destroy something, and then all of a sudden you're just so behind. You're
Right.
playing it, and then it doesn't matter what kind of 1-drops or 2-up they have, because it's just gonna like they're just gonna plow through. So I thought the deck was really good because of their armor and like Karametz's Blessing, that sort of synergy. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I still fear, the hands with no heroic creatures, but it's pretty strong. So now we come to our top deck with a 60+% win percentage, World Gorger Dragon, which I think was the best deck.
I agree. I actually agree.
Yeah, I think so too.
We had kind of bone that we couldn't see in the PD 500. We really, I don't know. Well, I was prepared for the matchup, but like I said, I don't know how it affected. It affected a lot of people's like choices, like Anime Daddy being bugged. It's just so unfortunate, but Wansi cannot get their shit together. It's really dumb.
It's really unfortunate.
So like,
it was such terrible time.
So like
It
they
was
add
bugged for like
something
4 days, including.
for those who don't know, like when they added Anime Dead, Kaladime, or I'm sorry, when they added Kaladime, every time you add something at GTO, 3 other things break, or 30 other things break. So that's what happened. Basically, that's what happened right before our PD 500. And Anime Dead was one of those things. I don't know why, really. It's like I think it's just like leaving permanence. I can't never explain what Watsi does in PGO, but it just like was really terrible timing.
Yeah, like the rules engine is very complicated, and whenever you're adding new mechanics, it's just like, well, unless you test literally every card in Magic, the best way to find out that they fuck stuff up is to let the community tell them. And the fact they have a habit of going, oh yeah, it releases at the end of a week, so they don't get time to actually fix the bugs until the next Monday, which is all entirely reasonable. It's just kind of unfortunate for us.
Yeah, like I guess I can't fault them for like putting something out in the wild and then not knowing how it's going to react. Because a lot of like look at Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's the same thing. They just kind of push that out and just figure out what happened. But that's a bit unfortunate. I wish I could have played it.
Yeah.
Or played against it, rather. I wouldn't have played it. I would never play this deck.
Well,
What do you think is the best version of this? Because I was going to play Tom's Mindcrank version in the PD 500, but I think the Storm version was very good too.
it was. This kind of final evolution from Merpedy, I don't know how to say that. I think it's
Merpatty. I like Merpatty.
It's pretty slick. So this version has one Guildmage in the main, so that you can get it in play or get it back with Animate Dead and use your infinite mana to kill them with it. And then in the side, 3 more and 4 Mindcranks, so you can do a non-graveyard combo post board. But in the meantime, your kind of main deck is like very fast. Like in this deck, it's often correct to Dark Ritual out a Frantic Search on turn 2 because you will often just then win, or at the very least, make a 6/6 flyer that puts the win into your hand for next turn or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I played a little bit of the version with Runescarred Demon and Reanimate, and a lot of the version with Mindcrank combo in the main. But I think something like this, or just the Reanimate version, and your sideboard is a whole bunch of Giga Drows and Steel Sabotage and whatever to kind of play around the Graveyard Hate. I mean, I often found that I could Brainstorm a dragon on top of my deck, Winds of Rebuke the Tormod's Crypt, putting the dragon into the graveyard in your end step, and then kill you anyway. Like, one piece of Graveyard Hate wasn't very difficult to beat for any of these versions, I don't think. So it was just kind of incredibly sick. And you can either play Treasure Cruise or not. Like, I don't think it even mattered really. Like, it gives you a bit more, oh, they had 3 answers. Well, no, I've got 3 more cards. At the expense of being a little bit slower. This deck was very fast though. Like, you would often kill on turn 3, and if you played your Brainstorms and everything correctly, which I never did and nobody ever could probably because it's so freaking complicated, but yeah, sick deck.
I agree with all that. I think that it basically, it's kind of like a testament to how broken the cantrip suite is. So basically people just started jamming all kinds of different combo. Like I mean, the day one thing to do was to play Storm, right? Like that was the obvious one. So, you played your tax probe, your ponder, your Brainstorm, your Treasure Cruise, and your Frantic Search with your Storm cards, and that was pretty good, and still pretty good. But then the second thing you think about, I can play World Gorger Dragon and animate that in that shell, and it turned out to be that's actually even a turn, maybe even a full turn faster than Storm on average. And
and you just need to roughly find it and then Frantic Search on turn 3.
That much because people don't, like we kind of said, like people don't really change. Like nobody's like playing Spikefield Hazards in their Red Deck Wins deck because Dragon is suddenly the best deck. So there's only like a few grinders that will really play it consistently, and so. But I think it was definitely the best deck, and I think that tools existed to beat it, but it's just it's still I still think it would be if we had like a real if people really wanted to beat it, it would probably lower its win rate a little bit, but it would still be the best deck, I think.
Yeah, 67% against aggro is a great number for PD for sure. Trashing the deck wins and so forth. What did it actually
I thought the best
lose
version,
to?
honestly, was the Mindcrank version, to go back to the initial question. Because I think the Storm version took a lot of sideboard cards. And if you want to, like, kind of, like, not pivot, what's the word I want to use? If you want to, like, avoid a certain sort of, like, okay, they're going to heat my graveyard, so I'm going to bring in all this graveyard hate. They're just putting, like, Duskmantle Guildmage, Mindcrank is, like, a really good way of just, like, avoiding sort of the graveyard hate. Because, I mean, even you can main deck Duskmantle Guildmages and just make a bunch of infinite mana and like speed up the Shriekhorn kill by like 1,000,000 turns. So just having like one of those main decks like opens up your sideboard. You don't even have to like Mindcrank honestly in the sideboard, but you could have done so many different things, and that's the scary part of the deck is that you could just do so many different things.
Yeah, I mean this
and it would have been
completely.
it could have been completely fine. Any choice would have been fine.
This is my version I won a tournament with, and honestly, like this, like Thirst for Knowledge, Treasure Cruise, these Latnam's Legacies. Like, they could almost be any card. I mean, I even played an Owl Familiar. I don't really know why. So,
You're just succumbing to people's suggestions.
If you have Guildmage Mindcrank as your backup combo, World Gorger Dragon, Animate Dead, Piranha Marsh, or Guildmage again.
If I'm putting Thirst for Knowledge in my deck, I really want to play Shriekhorn.
That's what I'm saying too. It's like you're just missing out on the Shriekhorn.
I did play the Shriekhorn version. I do think with the combination of Brainstorm, Shriekhorn is really good with Brainstorm. It's like one of the missing shuffles, right? You put the 2 cards you don't want back and you put them in the yard. And what's more, in a kind of reanimated deck, you might actively want them in the yard. So I do think Shriekhorn was good in a way that it hasn't been in like mono black reanimated YOLO. I hope this mills an Eldrazi because if not, my hand is non-functional. Like, it's a really different card. Also, in the loop with World Gorger Dragon, you mill them out, so it's actually a kill as well. And you might even need to, like, mill yourself or mill them to get a creature into the yard so you can stop looping with World Gorger Dragon so that you can then win as well. So, I think it was this season good, but not.
Yeah.
But basically,
No, I
I decided
understand.
like 3 Duress, 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponder, 4 Guildmage, 4 Mindcrank, 4 Dragon, 4 Animate Dead, 4 Frantic Search, some lands including Piranha Marshal, a land that kills them when you're looping. It just felt incredibly powerful all season, and I would usually lose thinking something like, wow, there was no Animate Deads or Mindcranks in the top 28 cards of my deck. You know, that kind of scenario would have to occur for you
Should
to
play Muddle
even
the Mixture.
think about losing. It was
Just play Muddle the Mixture. You can just transmute it. It's really easy.
although I do think
That's a winning strategy.
I
It's a
have
winning
I did play
strategy
Model
to
the Mixture in
transmute something.
various numbers
It's a
this
winning
season.
strategy.
I actually like Model Limit in this deck because it finds Animate Dead and Mindcrank and
Yeah.
it's
Find somebody.
it was fine.
Find Alphamilliar. It looks for Alphamilliar.
The trouble with
Can't
Muddle the
be-
Mixture is that it takes your entire turn 3, and you really might as well just win.
You can think about the.
No, I mean,
you
I
can think about the
don't think
optimal
it's
list.
good, but I'm saying like it's like a reasonable consideration in this deck.
Yeah,
but
I played it in various numbers at various times in
Yeah.
in the Latinam Legacy.
on the topic of Shriekhorn again, real quick, I think that I think that basically the combination of Brainstorm and other cantrips with Shriekhorn is really good, and Treasure Cruise. I do think that what was I going to say? There were decks like there were the mono black Reanimator decks that were just trying to blind mill with Shriekhorn, and like I understand why they had that, and I understand it was like an all-in deck, so it was like it's kind of a glass cannon.
Right, but if
I
the
think
first
that deck
4
in
mills
general was
don't hit one of
the
your
glass
targets,
cannon
it's just
to,
a do
like,
nothing.
excuse them playing Shriekhorn, but I mean it's that's just I mean it's silly, but I don't know if I think maybe it was correct to play Shriekhorn. I just think that deck was bad, so that's my take on it.
Did you win with that deck? I swear you won a tournament with that. Maybe it was Merpatty.
I think it was
One of you won.
Merpatty played that deck a lot.
Popularizer of that deck, which is no disrespect intended, but I just think that deck's like a real glass cannon, and like
It was a good week 2 deck. I think it was a really
Yeah.
good week 2 deck.
So
Yeah.
the World Gorger Dragon deck maybe lost to like some of the him decks, maybe low numbers, slightly unfavorable match against Is It Tempo, maybe, you know, with counter spells.
I could see the Orzhov Hate Bears type deck being pretty good against it.
Yeah.
I tried to test that matchup a bit, but I lost like the two matches I played, so I don't know.
All right, so I'm about to run out of time on this, so we'll pause and then restart. I'll send
Oh, you
another
don't have the
Right.
official, you don't have the official Zoom. You have the free version.
Apparently not.
Oh my gosh.
So I'll see you all in a minute.
Oh my, you're gonna. I was gonna say something.
I'm
I
going
don't
to
wanna
cut
say it.
this chat off. I'll see you all in a minute.